what do people keep garments in?
Bigger bags, darling. I can get you a bigger bag.
Okay. Matchmaker.
I know, I do. But, you know.
Ah. Peashoots.
Oh.
I'm not joking.
Oh, no. Oh, it's a wasp.
No, it's not.
It is a wasp. That is a
sure?
wasp. Yeah.
And you imagine now, just picture for a moment, what a shepherd looks like.
Yeah. Gosh.
And still it continues.
He had a shepherd's crook.
Whistling.
Flat cap.
Dog running.
Oh, oh!
It's not going to sting you through.
He says, oh, do you reckon? He's a youngster, this one.
And that's it. That's all you got to do. Folks, we're back in York for one last time this series for a trip.
He'd had them on like all week. I was like, oh. I said, can I not wash them? But he's like, no, I need to wear them. Did you get it?
Yeah.
Oh, well done.
We're back. My goodness.
It feels ages since we've sat here.
I know, and I gave myself a shock then.
You gave me a shock.
My goodness, we've got so much to tell you.
We have.
Haven't we?
Yes.
Oh, yes. And we shall start with some news. Kay climbed a mountain. She's been taking this whole climb every mountain thing a little bit too literally. And she went all Julie Andrews on me.
Oh, yeah.
She was running up that hill. Oh, I've gone all Kate Bush.
Kate Bush.
You see, I like Kate Bush, but Kay doesn't quite so much. The reason why I like Kate Bush is I remember when I went to see Back to the Future, all those times, you know, back in when it came out, they played, and this is only just really coming back to me now, they were playing music videos.
Oh, really?
Interspersed.
Do you remember music videos in the 80s?
I do, they were brilliant.
They were phenomenal.
Specifically, Kate Bush is running up that. No, the weather one. It was the weather one. The one. Oh, what's it called? You're all gonna know. Look, doesn't matter. It's one where she's changing the weather. She's like with
Oh, I don't know.
I know why they were playing it. It all makes sense now because she's like working with this like mad scientist dude who's got a machine that he pulls to the top of this hill.
It's a bit Frankensteinish, is it? No,
he can control the weather.
Oh, right.
So he can make the weather do whatever he wants. And they were playing that every time that I went to see it. And of course, I went to see it 7 times. So 7 times I had that song played to me. Right. And that's probably the reason why I like Kate Bush. But I'm not joking. In all the years that we've been together, she was off. She got all tugged up, like properly Walker.
I really wasn't.
Kay Bonington, that's who it was.
I just had walking shoes on and a rainproof mag.
Yeah, but she doesn't normally like wearing those things.
I don't.
Because they swish.
They swish. Do you know that noise that waterproof things make? Oh, I can't be doing with it at all.
The thing that you love the most is the swishy trousers.
I won't wear the waterproof trousers. I used to have some years and years and years ago.
Do you know what? I don't think I've ever owned a pair of those. Or maybe in the recesses of my mind, there is a pair of those lurking.
Right. I used to have a pair and I just can't deal with the noise of the swish swish. Oh, gosh.
Oh, no. But
I would like some sticks, though, some walking sticks.
Oh, yes.
That would be quite cool. We were overtaken by 2...
They were amazing.
They looked like they were in their 80s.
They were
couple.
amazing.
They were absolutely amazing.
No, first of all, I think that we need to just clarify, this is not some little hill. This is Wansfell Pike.
It's a steep hill.
It is.
Very steep.
This is one of the places where whenever you see a picture of the Lake District, it's normally looking straight down Windermere, and because it's the biggest and it's such a big expanse. And this is where it's taken from. It's really high.
Yeah,
and it's super steep.
Yeah, and we were walking along and fairly slow, you know, really, but steady. You know, slow and steady wins the race, doesn't it? Really. And then we saw this couple behind, and they kept getting closer and closer, and I thought, gosh, these are like some 20-somethings, you know, storming up the hill, and they walked past us, and they were, honestly, look, both in their 80s.
But they had sticks.
They were fully togged up, they had the walking sticks, they had massive backpacks on, and they just ploughed ahead of us.
Yeah,
but, you know, we didn't mind at all.
Yes, you did. You were getting very...
No, I was more stressed when they were just behind us because I was like feeling pressure to walk faster. But amazing, absolutely amazing.
But she saw those sticks and she was smitten. I've used those sticks before, and they are really great. You know, if you're going over tricky ground, because effectively you've got 4 legs.
It was quite rocky. There was some quite rocky bits as well, weren't there?
More though was the steepness.
It was steep.
When you're going up something that steep, it's very well. The wrong thing to do is to go straight up it. You're supposed to go side to side. Because
we did coming back down, didn't we? Because it was very gravelly, and there's always a risk you're going to slip, isn't there?
It's better on your knees and better on your ankles.
Yeah, I mean, my knee was hurting coming down.
So, we climbed up this hill. Kay had made the most delicious picnic. Oh yes, it was great. It was great. Oh, I've fallen in love.
What with?
3 things.
3 things.
Yes, and I'll start with the thing that made me think of. Peashoots.
Oh.
I'm not joking. Find them and eat them.
That's very random, isn't it?
Oh my goodness, I don't know why I've never picked these up before. It's the most pea flavour. It was just stunning. Now,
It's like a little salad leaf if you don't know what we're talking about.
Sadly, come home, managed to find them. I nearly expired when I found them in our local supermarket.
Yeah, but they weren't the same, were they?
They were nice. They weren't as peey.
Weren't as peey.
You only got the pea flavour after you'd been chewing for a bit.
They were quite bitter, weren't they?
They were. Whereas the ones that we got in a different supermarket, and we'll talk about that supermarket in just a minute, they were really pea, really sweet, really gorgeous. So Peashoots, and she'd put in this salad.
What did
this
I put
amazing
in
salad.
there?
There was
Peashoots.
Peashoots.
I mean, this is how hilarious we are. We're sat on top of this sort of hill.
Yeah.
Wind was blowing quite hard. It was trying to rain a little bit, and we're sat there with like glamorous salads. You know, most people
It's
just
lovely.
have a sandwich, don't they?
I can't have a sandwich. So I had this delicious salad. It was absolutely wonderful. And do you know what we got? In this small space on the side of this mountain with these amazing views, we got a perfect microcosm of the world today.
We did.
Because what happened was, first of all, this family arrived, family of 4, stunning views. I'm talking panoramic views.
Yeah, beautiful.
Where every direction that you look,
Yeah.
these views are so amazing. Bryony said, we should do one of those 360-degree photo things.
And we did do that, which was fun.
It was great. And this family arrives, and the first thing that they do, before even looking around, is get their phones out. Oh, I've got a signal.
That's what we heard from behind us. Oh my word, this is fantastic. I've got a signal.
Because the other thing that they decided to do was masses of land. I'm talking land with no one on it as far as the eye can see, and they came and stood not 5 foot from us.
I know. Wow, what is that all about?
It's like sheep.
Honestly.
So they stood there, and all of them are looking down like this.
All of them looking down at their phones.
And I was stood there eating, and they were right in my eye line. And I promise you, not one moment did they look up.
Can you believe that? And
Until they moved
I
off.
think that just epitomises,
But
the world that we're in.
perfect to that yin came the yang.
Yeah.
Because then
This was
from
amazing.
over the hill comes striding out the most if you imagine you're in the Lake District, and you imagine now, just picture for a moment what a shepherd looks like.
Yeah.
Well, that's what appeared.
He had a shepherd's crook,
Whistling,
flat cap.
dog running,
Yeah.
sheep flying around the place.
I think he had a tweed. No, he didn't. He had like a raincoat on because it was a bit rainy.
Now, this guy appeared from he's like, whoa, he's up there. He was a dot in the distance. And the first we saw of him was his dog.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, he's got to be young. He's got to be young. He gets closer. Oh, no.
No, he wasn't.
I mean,
He wasn't.
just amazing the way he was moving across the land. And he was the loveliest guy.
He walked straight past us and he just went, oh, it's lunchtime, is it? Yeah. And we're like, yeah. And I said to him, gosh, we've been watching your dog. He's absolutely amazing. He says, oh, do you reckon? He's a youngster, this one. You know, he's like this. And we asked him, and the dog was called Rex. And he's like, oh, I'll keep him away. He'll be after you snap. He didn't say snap, did he? But that's like that's a Yorkshire thing, isn't it? But it was amazing. And, we watched him go all the way down, and we watched the dog kind of whipping around all the sheep. And
it was
so
wonderful in a way.
nice.
It was like a sign, because you're there and you're looking at these amazing views, you're having this lovely time, and then you get this reminder of the problems with the world today.
Yeah.
But then, the sign appears. Don't fret, because look, there's still people in the world who don't need that, who, you know, what a life that guy must have.
Oh, it'll be a hard life, won't
But
it?
an amazing life. Imagine the sights he sees.
Oh, yeah.
How happy was he?
No, it was, jolly as anything.
He doesn't need to check in.
No.
I don't know about you, but it's rare that I look at a photo of a view and get enjoyment from it. What I get enjoyment from are photos of people doing things.
Because you relate to that then, don't you? And you say, oh, I remember when we did that, that was lovely.
Absolutely. And we did. We had a picture of all our socks.
We did.
Because we
all had hand knit socks on. It was quite cool. It's the coolest day we've had probably since about April.
Yeah, I loved it too.
Yeah, and we all actually put our hats on. What?
You meant cool.
Cool.
I'm sorry. It wasn't even funny.
No, we all put hats
Scratch
on.
that.
I mean, that was just, I was like, oh, I'm going to put my hat on.
It was
Oh,
marvellous.
it was absolute joy, yeah.
And not only that, so of course, you know, Kay Bonington now is her name. No, that's wrong. You know, because you're Team Fines, aren't you?
Yeah.
Kay Fines.
Kay Fines.
Yes. We went to Hilltop,
We did.
Beatrix Potter's house.
We did.
And
Because it wasn't really far away from where we were staying.
No.
Half an hour.
And do you know what, actually, in hindsight and on reflection, I enjoyed...
I'm really glad I went.
I have more of an appreciation for what she did for that countryside than, you know,
It wouldn't
I
look,
ever had before.
I'm sure it wouldn't look like it does now had it not been for her.
Kay.
At all, would it?
Everywhere that I was running, and everywhere that I ran, and I went in lots of different directions, all had the National Trust grazing sign.
Yeah,
and
which
that
is
means,
all land that she bought and then, you know,
as we covered, of course,
gifted to.
We covered that whole story in this new adventure series.
Yeah.
And what an amazing thing that woman did.
Oh, absolutely, it was amazing. And I really wanted to go to Hilltop, you know, I've wanted to go for years. So I was glad that I went, but it was kind of disappointing, I'll be honest. It was incredibly touristy and, you know, queues and huge amounts of people. And I just found it a bit sad, really, you know, that all of these people were tramping around her house.
The underlying feeling,
you know, I was one of those people tramping around her house, but I didn't get a feel for her being there, and I think it's just because of the number of people that were there. And
we both said that the underlying feeling that we got was that Beatrix would be turning in a grave, because that is not what she wanted.
Because she was quite a solitary person, I think. You get that impression, don't you?
Yeah, she'd hate.
Because she didn't get married, did she, until she was in her 40s? Was she in her 40s?
She wouldn't be thrilled that, you know, thousands and thousands of people are traipsing around her house.
Well, you kind of think that she wouldn't. But as well as that, you know, there was only 2 rooms open on the ground floor of the house and 4 upstairs, and they were all quite small rooms. So we'd gone round in about 15 minutes, which, you know, it was obviously a much bigger house than that. There were doors everywhere that were closed. And that also just, I was like, oh gosh, you know.
It shouldn't be open. Because it feels wrong, you know.
It felt a bit intrusive. I mean, that probably sounds silly, doesn't it? Because obviously all the money goes to the maintenance of it. If they hadn't opened it, it would have just fallen to rack and ruin.
But they said while we were there that they have issues because of the amount of people who were traipsing around.
Just before we went in, the lady was saying to us, you know, just be aware that, you know, there's a lot of wear. It's a very old and fragile house. The things in it become more and more fragile as years go by because of the number of people that are going through the house. So I don't know. I was kind of conflicted. And it's like anything, it's kind of much smaller than you imagine it. And her garden is tiny. You know, Peter Rabbit's garden. You imagine what it's going to be like. I can guarantee it is not like you imagine it.
The places where you feel connected to Beatrix Potter are, for example, we went for a little walk to Moss Eccles Tarn.
We did, and that was
which
brilliant.
inspired the story of Jeremy Fisher.
Yeah.
And that's where you feel connected to.
Yeah, you really can feel it there.
And also walking through Troutbeck, which we did. You know, that was the area which she loved, and she bought the farm down there, and that's where she bought the farm, and she put all the Herdwick sheep there. And those are the places where you feel really connected to her. You know, the wild, wide open spaces which she loved, and you know, we can now go and enjoy because of her. So, you know, in summary, Hilltop is a little bit disappointing.
Yeah.
And I don't think I recommend it.
I probably wouldn't recommend it.
If you love Beatrix Potter, what I would do is I would go to the places which she loved and which inspired the stories which she wrote. You'll get more enjoyment from that, absolutely. And I said a moment ago that I'd fallen in love with 3 things.
3 things?
And I've only mentioned 1.
Oh.
And I need to mention some more.
Okay.
And I think, it's 4 things.
4 things?
The list keeps going up. I told you it had been a momentous few weeks.
Tea?
This is the greatest peppermint tea.
It's lovely, yeah.
There is not a peppermint tea in the world that I've had, that we've had, and we've had a few, to touch this. This is from a supermarket which we've never heard of before.
No.
It's called Booths.
Yeah, and it is a chain, but it's a small chain, and it's only really in the
That
sort of
part of
Lake
the world.
District area, isn't it?
Well, it's the northwest.
Yeah.
Because it started in Blackpool.
Yeah, it kind of
in
runs...
1847.
It's sort of Blackpool, Manchester, Lake District. It's that kind of area, isn't
1847, Kay.
it? Wow, is it really?
Yeah, and how did they start? They were a tea house.
Ah.
This is their own blend.
Gosh,
They don't buy this in.
I didn't read that. It's really fantastic tea. It's really minty, you know, and it just tastes really fresh. It's these bags where it's like a little pyramid bag, proper leaves inside. Can you see? And it's just so, it's so minty and lovely. It is the nicest one, but the supermarket was amazing.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Oh, what else are you?
Shorty socks.
Gosh, they're so stretched out.
Oh my goodness. Kay told me off the other day, she said, you have to take those off. They're going to walk themselves to the washer.
He'd had them on like all week. I was like, I said, can I not wash them? But he's like, no, I need to wear them. I have washed them when we got home, but you've since worn them again about 3 times.
Can I strongly recommend to everyone who hasn't experienced the joy of a shorty sock to do so immediately because they're wonderful.
I am knitting you another pair, which I'll talk about in a little bit.
Most excellent. So highly recommended. I'm in love with shorty socks. Also, my final thing, which I've fallen in love with, and I really have.
Yeah, English Lakes ice cream.
Oh,
you can obviously, I'm sure
goodness.
You probably can only get it in the Lake District.
It is the nicest ice cream, bar none.
It is the nicest ice cream I think that we've ever had, yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
And they did a flavour which was salted
licorice. It's gorgeous.
If you like licorice, and I know a lot of people hate it, so this won't interest you, but if you like licorice, oh my goodness.
Well, you see,
that was amazing.
It's not like any licorice ice cream I've ever had before, because obviously I had the blackcurrant licorice, and that one does taste like licorice.
Yeah.
The salted licorice, it's got a different...
Yeah, it was different.
It's a different vibe.
It was different. It was just lovely. And I had raspberry ripple, which you can very rarely find a proper raspberry ripple ice cream.
It was superb.
Oh, it was lovely. And Bryony just had vanilla. Oh, she had a chocolate, and she loved the chocolate.
Yeah.
Because she didn't normally like chocolate ice cream, but she loved that one.
Enough of this, because we have a huge show in store.
We do.
Literally, the biggest new adventure we've ever had. 2 days, really intense, amazing fun filming. But also, I finished a project.
Yeah.
Kay's finished 2 projects.
2.
One of them is unbelievably exciting.
Yeah.
I've made the most stunning progress on not 1 but 2 jumpers, but one of them is being saved till next time.
Yeah.
Enough of all this
I've
talk.
got 1 new cast on.
1 new custom.
Which is very exciting.
I think it's time for us to find out. Kay Jones, what's on your needles?
I'm going to start with the exciting new cast on. You're all going to fall off your chairs, as my friend did yesterday when I told her that I'd started this, but I am knitting a cardigan.
Uh-huh.
And when I told my friend, she said, what, a full-size adult cardigan? I said, yes, it is.
I do think that's a little bit cheeky because you have knit.
Well, I have, but not. Let's be honest. It's
You've
not
knit
mine.
me a tank top.
Now, there's a bit of a story behind this project, which I did have some conversation with our patrons about on a pop. The pattern I was going to knit was out of a Rowan book, and it was a Kim Hargreaves pattern. It was this kind of little boxy, shortish jacket with really heavy cables on it. And it was knit out of Rowan Big Wool, which is like a really thick merino. And I swatched with that. I had 1 ball in my stash, luckily, and I couldn't get gauge. The gauge was something like 11 stitches to 4 inches. It was it turned out it's actually a super bulky. I thought it was just like a chunky, but it's actually a super chunky, I think. But then I totally changed my mind on wanting to knit that pattern because I read through it. And it's knitting pieces, which was great. I really wanted that. but there was kind of lots of things where you had to think, you know, it was written in such a way, it was like an old-fashioned pattern. Do you know how they used to be written? Like, it would just say, sew up seams, or, you know, things like that. It wasn't very detailed, and I just thought, oh, maybe I'm just going to have to think a bit too much with this. So I looked around for another pattern, and I found this one, and I thought, do you know what? I think this will be perfect. The pattern I found is called Iced, I-C-E-D, Iced, by Carol Feller. It's a free pattern on Ravelry via Knitty. And let's see if I can find a picture. I printed off just the essential things. There is a picture. It's just this really simple stocking stitch cardigan with a big garter collar. It's a very popular pattern. You've probably seen it maybe, and you could well have knit it. And it's knit in a super bulky. They use Drops Ice. Hence the name. I never thought about that. That must be why she called it Iced. It's really simple. It's just top down, raglan increases, you know, take your stitches off for the sleeves and then pick up for this big garter collar. And the gauge for this was 12 stitches to 4 inches. And I got 11.5, so I thought I'm okay with that. You know, it might come out a smidge bigger than the pattern, but that should be all fine. I'm going to go with it. So I cast it on. And the yarn I bought, the reason I was umming and ahhing, I think initially, is because the Rowan Big Wool yarn is expensive. I think it's about getting on for £10 a ball per 100 gram ball, and you'd need about 8, so that's a really expensive gift, isn't it, really? Also because it's a really soft merino, and I just thought that is going to pill like the absolute devil. And someone's told me since that it, you know, they've used it, and yes, it does pill. You know, if it was for me, I'd think that was fine, but because it's a gift, I thought I don't want to give them something knowing that after a few wears it's going to start looking a bit tatty. So I found this yarn. It's Stylecraft. You're all laughing, aren't you? It's Stylecraft Life Super Chunky. It's a mix of, it's 75-25, it's 75 acrylic, 25 wool. So there is some wool in there, but it's largely acrylic. But do you know what? I swatched with it, and it's nice to knit with. The swatch was lovely. It washed up great. And I just think for a gift, you know, she can throw this in the washer if she wants to, and it won't come to any harm. It'll wear really well, you know, it shouldn't pill. And I loved this colour. The colour is called Spice. And it's just this lovely autumnal colour with all these kind of flecks of blues and reds in it and golds. It's really, really nice. So that's what I'm using to knit the Iced, and it's 8mm needles, everybody. They're like drumsticks or something. It feels absolutely enormous to knit on when I'm used to 2.25s for socks. But I cast this on the other morning and I knit on it for about an hour or so, and look how far I got in an hour. I think, you know, this is the thing. Dan was doing some work and he came back in the room an hour or so later and he went, "You've only just cast that on and look how big it is." I said, "I know. It's because it's super bulky." So I'm working on the raglan increases. You can see them here, look. And I'm using Chow Goose, my interchangeables. It did go up to 8mm because I've got the full set. And look at the size of them. I mean, they're just enormous. But these are lovely needles. I did actually cast on with wooden. I've got some Knit Pick Sunstruck, I think it is, interchangeables. And I thought, oh, maybe wooden will be better. But it was so grippy because this yarn is, like I say, largely acrylic. It's not particularly slidey. So I thought, right, I'm going to go with the Chow Goose because I actually did swatch with the Chow Goose anyway, and they're working out fine. They're, you know, for 8mm, they're quite pointy. I think it's really good, and it's totally lovely, pleasant knit at the moment. Nothing taxing. You know, it's just very standard top-down instructions. The instructions are very clear. So yeah, I'm working away on that, and I think the only thing is, because the needles are so big, it's quite hard on your hands. My hands get a bit kind of sore and crampy. So I'll probably only work on this in, you know, an hour chunks each time, but it grows so quickly that I don't think it will take hugely long to get it finished, really. The only amendment I'm going to make to the pattern, and she does suggest this anyway, is that if you look at the cuffs and the bottom band, there's no ribbing at all. It's just stocking stitch all the way down. And she does say if you would prefer, you can just do a few rows of garter there. So I'm going to do that because I think because of the garter collar, I think that will just go really nicely. And then you just need 2 sort of chunky buttons. If you can see, you make some loops for the buttons. So I think I'm gonna get 2 sort of chunky toggles, do you know, like on a duffel coat. I think that'll be really nice. So yeah, I am knitting a cardigan.
Great. Have you finished? Get ready for this. My goodness. You
Dan
won't...
Jones.
Yeah, sorry.
He's too keen, isn't he?
Yeah.
What's on your mind?
Well, I'm telling you.
He's already telling us.
I'm already telling you. You won't believe I've done this. I only had a tiny bit of help. Kay helped me pick up the stitches for the sleeve. The last time you saw this, I hadn't even finished the front or the back. I can't remember.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Gosh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I've knit it. I'm sure that's right. Yeah, it is.
Right.
It is. I've knit it to the top.
Right.
3 needle bind off.
Gosh, I can't believe that.
And onto the sleeve.
Yeah.
What precisely am I talking about? Well, it must be a garment. And it can only be the cemento. Oh, yes. Look at this. It's so big.
It won't fit in the
doesn't
bag
fit
now,
in my bag.
really.
It doesn't fit in any bag.
You need a bigger bag.
I'd need a sack. Look at that. Oh, look at this.
Knitting a sleeve.
It's so exciting. I now understand. It's been such a journey. I love it. Because it's like everything fits together with regards to everything that's gone before. And what do I mean by that? Well, the short rows are like turning a heel. It's just like turning a heel. That's what it felt like. It felt like doing a heel turn on a bigger scale, a grander scale. And the 3 needle bind off felt, I'd never done it before, but I just felt decidedly at home. Now, you have a tutorial that we filmed that's coming out soon, and that's what I used.
Right.
That's why I didn't need to ask you.
Oh, right.
So it's been amazing. I've loved literally every second of this. It's definitely pushed me to the absolute. It's pushed me to the absolute limit.
I think you've done really well. You've not really had to ask me anything.
No, it's just, and I just came to the conclusion with the picking up. I could have done it, and I'd have probably fudged it a little bit and made a few mistakes. Well, this is a garment that's taking a huge amount of effort, and if there's someone in the house who can pick up really well, what is the point at this stage where I'm ramming in so much new information, so much learning? Let's get through a couple of jumpers, and once I've done all the things, once I get confident with the overall technique, that's when then I can go, right, okay, now I can really get my head into and focus on nailing that pickup. And
It's not the easiest thing in the world to do.
No, but I need to learn at some point, and I will
yeah.
do. But at this stage,
Like you say, I think you're learning enough right
look at
now.
that though.
It's really cool.
It's like it's the greatest thing ever. It just and to see, I nearly did a happy dance when I did that, because when you do that, that's when it feels like a garment. And Kate put it on and it fits.
Oh, I did put it on.
It totally fits.
I put it was like sleeveless, like this.
It's like, oh,
it's a very attractive look.
There's nothing wrong with it, and it looked good.
Oh,
it looked
get
good.
on.
But I couldn't recommend more to you. I mean, it does depend on the type of knitter that you are, but and no one told me. Everyone talks about Sleeve Island. No one told me that you have to go through the wrap and turn rapids to get to Sleeve Island. You just think, got to the sleeves now, off we go.
You don't always.
My
but-
goodness, that was intense.
I've-
Do you remember I sat there in front of the air conditioner?
Yeah. Yeah, you did. Yeah, you literally sat in,
I sat in front of the air conditioner. I thought, right, I'm going to have to nail this. And I had to do it over 2 days. And, anyone will know who's done wrap and turns. Ideally, you wouldn't leave it.
No, when I did it on Nana Wendy's cardigan, do you know that grey one I
Yes,
knit for last year?
cardigan,
and that,
last year.
That had wraps and turns, and I had to sit down and just finish the wraps and turns in one go. Yeah.
I mean, that was really intense. It was really intense.
But you did it.
Yes,
and
absolutely. Absolutely.
It's amazing, isn't it?
It is the
and,
most...
the cable comes out of right at the top. It's lovely. I mean, it's brilliant.
This is when...
I kind of was putting my arm in the sleeve, wasn't I, to see if it... I mean, it's not going to be a loose-fitting sleeve, but it will block. Because we were sort of umming and ahhing about the decreases, weren't we? I don't think we're going to do as many decreases on the sleeve. Don't think Dan's going to do as many decreases on the sleeve.
I
don't like tight fitting sleeves, and I've seen it a lot on designs just lately.
Yeah, what I decided was that rather than go down to what was suggested, and I can't remember exactly what that was, but I'm making quite a big amendment. You know, I'm going to not be going down at least 6 decreases, which she recommended. So that's, I think, 3 decreases, that's 6 stitches.
Yeah.
But, you know, we're just going to see as we go.
We're just going to kind of try it on and judge it.
This is when I get properly evangelical about knitting. Because honestly, I've never done anything in my life that I've got as much from as with this. And, you know, that includes everything, you know, from music to, you know, all the things that I've done before. And, you know, I think it is because that it's a tangible object that's appearing before you. And you know, like I said, when I finished knitting the Irish coffee, you know that it's going to be enjoyed and loved and used. And so, you know, it sort of makes all the effort worthwhile. Music's an interesting one because, you know, you make music and it's great in the moment, and anyone who's there in the moment, it's great. But it's an experience that comes and goes, and I'm certainly not criticising it because I'm a musician and I always will be a musician. This, though, it's like an extension of music. It really is. I know I've said before that knitting patterns, to me, feel like music, the good ones, because, you know, they have the same sort of peaks and troughs and you know, the way they're structured, it all feels like you're performing a piece of music. The beauty is, though, with this, is your piece of music lasts forever. Cables are just the business. I love them.
Beautiful.
I love them. So I will. I'll have that finished in a couple of days. Maybe not.
Sleeves are much longer than you ever think. I think. You know, you're like, oh, your arm's not very long. Your arm is long. I think
you're right.
It's much longer than you imagine it to be.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've nearly crumbs. I remember the days when I used to gauge projects with how many balls of yarn I've used. This is crazy.
I don't even know what you're on.
What do people keep garments in?
Bigger bags, darling. I can get you a bigger bag.
Okay. Well, I think I'm going to need to change to a different bag because that's become...
I'll get it for you when we finish.
That's become insanity. And there's nothing worse, actually, is that I've been finding recently, and I think it is because, you know, my projects, as I've started to become more of a garment knitter, have grown in size, that I'll always call them stitch counters. What an idiot.
Row counters.
Yes, I know. My row counters are being pushed. It happened again. But what I've taken to doing, as I was doing on here now, is I am using the lock.
Locking one, yeah.
Yeah, you know, so I put the lock on literally every time. I'll do a stitch and then do a stitch. Do a row.
Put the lock on every time you do a row,
yeah,
whilst you're actually using it.
Yeah.
Right, we can't start discussing row counters again, because that's just the most ridiculous thing he's ever said.
But it might get knocked. I get stressed now.
It might get knocked.
I get stressed that it's going to get knocked.
Whilst you sat on the sofa knitting.
It could do, couldn't it?
And it's sat just there by the side of you.
Normally isn't. I normally put it back in the bag because they tend to slip off the sofa, or, you know, I end up looking for it. If it's in the bag, I can just pick it up, click it, flick it.
Let's just let him do whatever he wants.
What else is on your needles?
Well, it's a pair of socks.
Oh!
Just following on from Dan's shorty sock obsession, it's another pair of shorty socks for Dan. And this allows me to just lean back here and show you our fantastic new sign, our Lost Socks board. And you'll see here is the lost sock waiting for its soulmate, as it says. So I will unclip it. And this is the first sock that's finished. And I think it's really fun, actually. The colours are really fun. Look.
Yeah. I love it.
Yeah, it's really nice. This one, I'd cast on previously, and I think I did show it on the podcast some time ago, and it was just going to be a full length normal sock. When down, and I'd done the cuff, and I'd done the leg actually, and I'd started on the heel flap. And that's all I'd done. And then Dan was saying, oh, I want another pair of Shorty socks when I'd finished those. And I thought, well, I've got these started, I could just rip them back. And that's what I did, and it would save me re-knitting the whole cuff and the little tiny bit of leg. So that's what I did. The only difference is this one had a longer cuff, because the one for the Shorty socks, I think I just did 12 rounds of rib. This one had my usual 18 I normally do for Dan for a normal size sock. So I did 18 rows of 2x2 and then just 12 rows of stocking stitch, and then went straight into the heel flap. I didn't do a contrast or anything. For these Shorty ones, I've just kind of liked keeping them all in the same yarn, because I know that I'm not going to run out or anything like that, because I'm skipping such a lot of the leg. I won't have a problem with yardage. And I did the same thing again. I knit 5 rounds plain after the gusset pickup before starting the decreases, just to give that extra bit of space over this wide part of Dan's foot. And then just knit down the foot, did an umbrella toe, and all done. And I've cast on the second one, and I'm on the heel flap of the second one, which is lovely. And I'm using an Opal yarn. It's Opal Talisman, which is a fairly recent range. You can still get this, I'm pretty sure. And this colour is 9274 Freud, I think that one's called. And it's just these lovely oranges and greens and a bit of pink in there. And I've got loads left, so I won't have a problem running out. And I'm using 2.5mm, as I normally do for Dan's socks, but that last pair that I knit, but they've stretched out. They did stretch out a lot, and I always wash them in the washer. When it's yarn like this, commercial yarn, I always put them in the washing machine, just at 30 degrees, just with other washing, nothing special. And that usually, with Opal socks, they come out of the washer and they look brand new, they've sucked back in and look brilliant. With those ones, they still kind of looked big. It's like they didn't quite have that elasticity that I find certainly with Opal. So I said to you, I don't know whether to just try knitting you a pair on 2.25s.
Yeah.
Because they look really baggy on your feet. And I do wonder, because then I asked you if any of your other pairs were a bit baggy, and you said maybe.
Yeah.
I just wonder, with all your running, if your feet have got a bit slimmer. Could that even be a thing?
Yeah.
I suppose it could, couldn't it?
Yeah.
So I thought, well, I could either drop to 68 stitches, but that kind of scares me a bit. I just don't think that. I think it would be too small. Or I could just go down that needle size. So I think with the next pair, I'm going to go down a needle size and just use 2.25 and see if that is a bit better. So yeah, I'm just working around this, and this has just been my bedtime knitting. But I mean, it might get promoted up a little bit just so that I can get these done for you a bit quicker.
Yeah.
Because it keeps going on about these Shorty socks.
They're great. Finished.
Yeah.
Lovely. Look at this.
Oh, you put it back.
Look at this. Look at this. I'm knitting Kay sock.
Ah.
It's a prairie sock. And it's on the amazing, lovely base from Nicole C. Mendes.
Yes.
This is a Harry Potter base, isn't it?
Harry Potter colourway.
Yeah, Harry Potter base. I don't know. Look, I'm a bloke.
It's Shrieking Shack.
It's Shrieking Shack, and it's
lovely.
fun. It's great. I've loved this actually, and it's so lovely. You'll just probably see me there. I was knitting on Magic Loop, and oh man, I sound like a hairy biker. I prefer.
Can't watch that programme.
I so much prefer this. As you know. But what a great! It's the first time I knit this pattern, and I love it. I love the look. Look at that! Isn't it marvellous? And I've just finished the heel flap actually, so I'll be picking up and getting on.
Heel turn. You haven't done the heel turn yet.
I just said I've just finished the heel flap.
Yes, and then you went, I'll be
yeah.
picking up. Don't be doing that. I'm not undoing your work again.
Again? Oh no, what a disaster. But yes, I love the self-striping. And I've developed a real enjoyment of self-striping socks actually. And I hadn't
They're great.
historically.
Yeah, they're great.
I hadn't. I'd been slightly dismissive of them. But, you know, I don't think you could and should be dismissive of anything until you've actually done it. You know, it's fun.
I never used to knit a lot of self-striping because I didn't like the whole what to do with the heel, because I don't care for afterthought heels or short row heels particularly. But I've kind of got over that now. And
Yeah.
I really.
I never
really
thought
enjoy
actually
it.
I could have done a contrast heel, couldn't I?
You could have done a contrast.
And I
heel,
really
yeah.
enjoy doing that.
But do you know what you could do
What?
to make sure the
Rip it
stripes?
out.
No. You could, when you finish the heel turn, you could see where that is in the stripe sequence, and you could wind off a little bit of yarn, cut it, wind off a little bit of yarn, and then reattach it where it's going to follow on from that.
Yeah, maybe.
A lot of people do that.
Maybe. I don't know. Maybe. I'll have a think when I get
Because
there.
there's a possibility you're always going to get like 1 or 2 rows of a single colour, and that I don't like that very much.
Right. Well, it's the prairie sock. Really enjoying knitting it. And next time you see it, hopefully, I'll be onto the foot. Hopefully, I'll have remembered to do the heel turn. What else is on your needles?
Well, many things. But the other thing I'm going to show you is another sock, because I'm super excited about this one. And again, I need to go to my lost socks sign. Can you see this one? Ooh, look at this one. I shall unpeg it. Oh, I love those pegs. Marvellous. Look. I finished one of my 9 3/4 socks. Isn't it lovely?
Yeah.
And if you remember last time, I was up to the heel flap and I was debating what to do about what colour to do the heel flap and turn in. And I did decide to use the Uncommon Thread yarn. And I'm really glad I did, because I think the hand-dyed nature of it really fits in well with the hand-dyed self-striping. So this yarn is from Piggy Yarns. I spoke about it last time. And Loriana has had an update with some of this in the shop. I don't know if it's all gone, or just go take a look. But I'm sure she'll be doing more if it's sold out. And it's the 9 3/4 on the Luxe sock, which is this amazing base of 80% superwash blue face Leicester, 10% cashmere, 10% nylon, and you get 425 yards in 115 grams. It's so lovely and so lovely to knit. So I put in I've got a little ball for the heel of the other one. This is the Uncommon Thread, tough sock, this one is. And I've had this ages in my stash, absolutely ages, and just decided to use it. I wound off a little mini because I didn't want to take the whole ball away with me, so I thought I'll just do a mini that I can use for the heel. And actually I never knit on this sock when we were away, but that's how it goes, isn't it? So that's the first one all finished, and just so lovely. Beautiful yarn. And I've cast on the second one. Literally, I've got like 2 rounds done. But I think, as long as I've got the second sock cast on, I'm fine, If I don't like to let a sock project sit in a bag with just one sock and the other one not cast on. I don't know, I just don't like that, because then it's a bit of an obstacle. I think, can't be bothered picking that up because I've got to cast it on. Where this is cast on and I've done 3 rounds, I think. And it's just all ready to go. So loving it. And it won't match because I prefer self-striping socks to be mismatched, So it finished on the black. The next colour was the blue. So I just wound off a little bit of the black to get to the blue, and I've started there. And I much prefer them not to match. I think it's more of especially with this theme as well, it's very kind of Dobby, isn't it? And it's very Dumbledore-ish to wear mismatched stripy socks. I would imagine that's the sort of thing that they will do. Such joy I got out of knitting this sock, and I will get equal amounts of joy out of knitting the second one, I'm absolutely certain.
What needles are you using?
Oh, I'm using Chow Goose 2.25, the mini twists, which are still my favourites, but I have knit a pair of socks recently using Higher Sharps 2.25, a fixed circular, and actually I really enjoyed knitting with those, and I'm going to use them again for another sock I'm about to cast on, so I did really enjoy those. So I would say these are my favourites, the Chow Goose mini twists, and then I would say after that Higher Sharps fixed circular would be my second favourite. I really enjoyed knitting with those. Didn't have any sort of problem with the cable wrangling, you know. They were lovely.
And that's the main issue, isn't it?
Yeah.
So what are these?
They're not, they are, I think
Right.
they're Addy.
Right.
And I think that cable, the cable is thicker than, the one on the Highs is quite a thin cable.
Yeah.
This is much thicker
Yeah.
on the Addy. I don't really like that cable very much. But I don't think we had any option with the size you were using.
No, and why is that again?
I could order you a higher.
Because mine is slightly thicker. I'm using slightly thicker needles. Is that right?
Yeah. You're
Right.
using 2.75 for your socks.
And you use
2.25 or 2.5.
right. And I don't do that because my stitch count is too high.
You're a very tight knitter,
Oh,
so
okay.
that's why.
Right.
But saying that, I think you've loosened up a bit. I think you could probably use 2.5mm, but you might not want to with your big hands. You know.
Yeah.
It's a it's a difficult thing. But the pair of socks you knit me on 2.75s are lovely.
Yes.
So what?
And that, I mean, that you really like that one, don't you?
Yeah, it's lovely.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. It fits perfectly. But I might order you a higher 2.75.
Right.
Because I think you'd like it.
Yeah. Well, a magic loop.
Yeah. It's,
No, there's just no point because I'm not going to use it.
you're not going to do magic loop
No.
again, are you?
I mean, I did that for the tutorial.
But you've got all of the rest of that sock to knit, and it might be more pleasant on a different needle.
Yeah. Well,
And I'd use it. Maybe I will.
what would you use it for then?
Well, I'm sure I'd have use for a 2.75 needle at some point. I mean, it's a good size for a sport weight sock, isn't it? 2.75.
Right.
So-
This is something that I've sort of touched on before with Kay, because you know it's how you approach unpicking it though and making it, because I've been knitting a long time and I have a certain amount of knowledge of all of this, but I then think I just don't, because you know when it comes to needle sizes I sort of get it, you know, going up and going down, but actually if you tested me now I don't think I'd have a clue. You know, I'd give you totally the wrong answers. You know, if I'm a tight knitter, do I need to go up in needle size or down in needle size? Well, it's up in needle size, isn't it? Yes.
Well, it depends what you mean by up and down, really. I mean, up as in going...
As in larger diameter.
Yeah, that's
but
right.
And then when you consider, you know, all the different sizes of yarns, you know, how if I was to go into a shop to buy myself, you know, a set of stuff,
A set of stuff?
You've got needles, you know, and yarn, and all the things that I needed to go away and knit a pair of socks, for example. It's guaranteed I'd get something a little bit wrong. You've got to have so much knowledge to...
I guess, but that knowledge is just built up over time, isn't it? You're not born with knowledge like that, are you? You've got to...
Where do you go to learn it, though?
Well...
Other people, because...
Other people and just knit more projects, you know, and the more you knit, the more experienced you will be.
It's good. I
think it's generally from another person, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know,
there must be lots of people out there though who don't have another person to.
No, and a lot of people learn how to knit from YouTube, don't they?
There's a huge difference. I've not seen many. How would you go about, you know, doing some sort of tutorial to show people how to pick the right needles for the type of knitter?
Well, it's very difficult because everybody knits to a different gauge.
And
so
we're getting to the nub of it now.
You can't say to someone, okay, if you want to knit a pair of socks, you use this size, because you don't know how tight they're going to knit. So I would say to someone, if you've never knit a pair of socks with sock weight yarn and you want to give it a go, I would start probably with 2.5mm and see what your gauge is like. Just knit a little bit, and you know, just do a cuff and a leg, and probably from that, you know, you can measure your gauge, you can put it over your ankle, you can see what it's like.
And you said about measuring your gauge. Do you normally get gauges on sock patterns?
Yeah, usually there or thereabouts.
Right, cool.
Yeah.
So
usually the gauge on a sock pattern is somewhere between 8 and 9 stitches normally.
Yeah.
That's the kind of standard gauge. I get on a 2.25mm needle, I get 8.5, 9 stitches to the inch. With 2.5mm, I get more like 8 stitches to the inch.
So you just said get a set of 2.5mm needles.
I would start with that. That's what I started with.
So
yeah.
I've got a set of 2.5mm needles, I've looked at the gauge on the sock and
Yeah.
it says 9 stitches to the inch.
Yeah.
And I've got 12 stitches to the inch.
Crikey.
I have no idea.
Right.
I
what
have
you
no
need to
idea
do.
what do I need to do?
You'd need a thicker needle, a bigger needle.
Right.
Because you've got your stitch gauge is too tight.
Okay, so if I've got 12 stitches to the inch.
That would be momentous.
Yes, I know. I'm making a point here, dear. So I would then need to go up in needle size.
Yeah.
Cool. Therefore, if I'm underneath... Now...
If you were looser...
You go to a smaller needle.
Yes.
Right. Then the next question is, though, how do you know what needle size to go up to? Would you just go up in increments?
You've just got to try, yeah.
So you'd go up in 0.25s?
Well, you'd just go to the next size needle up.
Right. And then go again?
Yeah, and then just try again.
Measure gauge again?
That's what you'd have to do, unfortunately. Yeah, I mean...
But once you've done it once, then you know.
Yeah, but your gauge can change over the years.
Yeah.
It's such a transient thing, I think, gauge, because you're not as tight as you used to be.
I know. I've bought you dinner at least twice in the last. So really interesting points there, because I had no idea about that, and that really does sort of help me get a sort of understanding, because it does frustrate me. For example, when I just set off knitting with completely the wrong size needles, just the other day, because. It's so easily done. And, it's the one side of things that I wish I had a little bit more understanding of. So I've learnt something there.
Oh, there you
If
go.
my gauge is too high, I go up a needle size.
Too tight, you mean?
If my gauge is too tight, I go up a needle size.
Yeah.
Excellent. It's time for us to start the greatest new adventure in the history of the world.
Brilliant.
Every new adventure, and actually every pudding club, we produce a gold edition. And that gold edition, it's completely uncut, it's longer, there's extended outtakes, and there's all our research notes. For today, because this new adventure is so special, we have left as much of the gold edition in as possible. So don't worry, it's not a 4-hour new adventure. It's only half an hour. 2 lots of 15 minutes. But we just couldn't cut it, because there's so much good stuff in this. So, and this is the new adventure that I wanted to put in episode 100, but Kay talked me down.
I did.
But now it's here for us in episode 106. So I think it's time that we went and finished off our triumvirate.
Oh.
That's it's a Roman word, you see.
It sounded Roman.
Yes.
No idea. It must be third or something.
Well,
Try.
what used to happen, it happens...
Like a hat trick.
Sort of, yeah. It was referred to...
I don't know why they call that a hat trick.
A hat trick.
Yeah, why is it called a hat trick?
Oh, you're starting a whole
when
new conversation
score 3
now.
goals. Why is it a hat trick?
Someone will know. Share it with us.
Did they get a
sometimes.
hat? Did they get a hat if they scored 3 goals?
Well, some hats had 3 points on them, didn't they, in the old days?
What? That a football player would wear?
But if football started a long time ago. They were playing football at Agincourt, the Archers.
Well, maybe it is
so,
that then.
Who knows? Or maybe
they had to do a trick with a hat.
it's a hat trick.
It's a mystery. Someone will know out there, I'm sure.
But I think we need to just get on with this, because it is just the best. We had the best fun doing it, and I hope you enjoy it. So let's go off to 2,000 years ago and the wonderful Roman city of Eboracum.
Folks, we're back in York for one last time for a truly epic new adventure.
We're here to do something many aspire to, but few succeed in. Over the course of the next 30 minutes, you and I will circumnavigate this city, and we'll be using these epic walls as our guide.
Welcome to Roman Britain and the home of the famous Lost Ninth Legion. These are the new adventures of the Bakery Bears. Ladies and gentlemen, I am excited. This is an adventure I've wanted to undertake my whole life. Why? Well, I grew up here, and every time I came into this city,
I passed under these huge walls that encompass the whole of York. Growing up, I always knew them as the Roman walls. But how can that be right? They've got arrow slits and crenellations that look like a medieval castle. So what is the real story? Today, we're going to find out. We shall walk the length of the walls, and along the way, we will search for and hopefully find everything left behind by the people who founded this city.
they were the Romans, and they didn't know this city as York. They called it Eboracum, and it would keep that name for the next 800 years. Where does our story start today? Just up here.
In the year 71 AD, the Romans were slowly pushing northwards as they continued their conquering of England. As they progressed across the country, they built forts like this, and York was no different. It was the famous 9th Legion who built York in that year, and we are making our way to the east corner of the fort they built. When they arrived here, there was nothing but yew trees, so it made sense when they finished building their fort that they call it Eboracum, because translated into English, Eboracum means yew tree place.
Now, all this that you see behind me was a medieval addition. And yes, whilst it's built on top of the Roman walls of the fortress, it's not Roman. But we're going to find our first piece of Roman remains just down here.
And here it is. It may be small, but it's beautifully formed. This was the site of York's very first archaeological excavation. It took place in the 1920s, and what they discovered was special. We're looking at the corner of the original Roman fort, built by the 9th Legion 18 centuries ago. Originally, it would have stood 8 meters high, and the city of York at that time would have looked like this. If we had stood here in, let's say, 80 AD on top of the eastern tower, you would have seen the fort's perimeter wall running straight down there. Now, of course, it's covered by the modern city. Inside that wall, you would have seen row after row of long barrack building where the Roman soldiers lived.
So this is where our circumnavigation of the city begins. The Roman tower was just behind me. The fortress wall was going that way. Everything going that way is medieval, so we're not interested in that. And this wall here that we're going to pick up in just a second and follow is on the Roman foundations.
And to get up on top of these wonderful walls, we're going to use these rather spooky steps. Now everything in front of me is Roman. This is the Roman fort's outer wall, built by the 9th Legion 2,000 years ago. This is the type of tangible history that really excites me. The Roman architects chose the site of York so well, 20 centuries later, we can still walk in their footsteps. Yes, of course, it's been updated and taken care of, and the stonework we're walking on is medieval.
But if we take a look a little lower, we might just find evidence of the original fortress wall.
To give us an idea what's going on here, let's take a look at another great Roman wall. This is, of course, Hadrian's Wall. And if York's city walls had not been looked after, this is what they would most probably look like now. But the Roman city had been perfectly placed, and as it grew in prosperity over the last 2,000 years, the residents took care of their walls, and as the stones wore out, they replaced them. But here, in this section of wall, we can see the original stones laid by the 9th Legion in 71 AD. This wall links us directly to the men who founded York. Now, we can do much better than some foundation stones, oh yes. So let's continue on our journey and see what we can find.
What I really love about the Romans is wherever they go, they build a fort. It's exactly the same size and shape, and they put everything in exactly the same place. So once we've found the outer walls, we know where everything else is.
For the last 1200 years, something very special has been the heartbeat of this city. That is York Minster. But it wasn't just randomly placed there, you see. In the middle of every large Roman fort, and I mean every one of them, was the most important building on the whole site. That was the Basilica, and it was where the local area was governed from. York Minster was built on the site of the Basilica in Eboracum, and this is what that grand building would have looked like. Now, it was a public building. In effect, it was the precursor of the town halls of today. In many cities, these buildings still stand, like this one in Rome. And I'd like you to pay particularly close attention to those columns.
Because look what I found. We've detoured off the wall for just a moment in search of more actual evidence, and it doesn't come much better than this.
We have found one of the many columns which once lined each side of the basilica, holding up its roof. It was excavated from underneath York Minster in 1971 and rebuilt here, directly outside of the cathedral, not far from where it once would have stood. This column was originally built by soldiers of the 9th Legion around 100 AD. Now, what I particularly love about this column is the history it witnessed, because Eboracum proved to be a very important part of the Roman province of Britannia.
Eboracum was visited by many emperors, from Hadrian to Septimius Severus, but it was this man just over here who really put the city on the map.
This is Constantine the Great. In the 3rd century, while staying at York, he was proclaimed emperor of the complete Roman Empire, which at the time covered a huge part of the globe. Now, the question you're all asking is what made him great? Well, the list is quite long, but let's pick out just 3 of the highlights. He completely restructured the Roman government, successfully fending off inflation for his citizens whilst expanding the empire further. He built a new city at Byzantium in Turkey, which he named Constantinople after himself, and it became the capital of the empire for 1,000 years. The city is, of course, known to us today as Istanbul. But what separated him from every emperor who had gone before him was his faith. He converted to Christianity and in turn brought the majority of the Western world with him.
So if Constantine hadn't converted to Christianity, that cathedral back there wouldn't have been built, I wouldn't have grown up a choir boy, and actually the whole of the Western world would have been completely different. And to think Constantine's story began right here in York, pretty much on the site of the Minster. But enough of this. I think it's time we found somewhere lovely for a little knit. Well, thank you for joining me for this extra special Knitability. And the Basilica, the big Roman place where they used to govern the whole region, was right there.
Oh, right. Where the Minster is?
Yes, they built the Minster right on top of it, and in the undercroft of the Minster, there is still some of the pillars from the Basilica. Oh. And the Basilica, that's hard to say.
That's hard to say, isn't it?
The Basilica is important because that's where Constantine was crowned. Is not the word, although they crowned them with a laurel wreath. So maybe you would say crowned. I don't know. I mean, it was Caesar who started that. I mean, that's where that whole thing came from.
And if there's another word for being crowned.
There probably is, laurelled.
Being laurelled. I don't think that really works, does it?
Sounds like something Laurel and Hardy did. I've got to say, as much as there's lots of spots on the wall to knit, I mean, and you know, if you were on your own and you weren't filming, it would work. But, you know, I'm much more comfortable here.
Yeah.
I don't think I'd particularly want to see... You're two on show.
You're two on show, sat on the, on those benches on the wall.
Yeah.
Is that what you mean?
Yeah. I mean, what I love, though, about the walls is... I mean, the walls is literally just behind that tree line over there. So you're always really within a very easy distance. You might spot somewhere that looks nice and you can detour off and away you go. I did love the museum. I really enjoyed looking around that museum.
Yeah, it was good.
And, you know, finding the gravestone, although we've not properly looked at it yet, but yes, we have found the gravestone of Lucius Rufinus. Now, what do you know about the Ninth Legion, Kay?
Not a thing.
You've never heard of the Lost Ninth Legion?
I've heard of it. Haven't we watched a film on it? Or...
Yes, you loved it.
Oh, right.
I can't remember the name of the dude who played the main character in it, but the Ninth Legion were the Legion who...
Shall I do a little half around so that I've knit as well?
Okay.
I didn't bring my knitting out with me. I left it in the car.
The Ninth Legion built York.
Yeah.
And then Vercingetorix and Cartimandua.
Sounds like
you know them. You know them.
What's that?
Oh, it's my usual halo. It's my halo.
Right, I will deal with that.
Thanks. Vercingetorix and Cartimandua, they lived at that Iron Age hill fort that we visited. Do you remember? Really close to home.
Yes.
Well, big sort of problems kick off there. The Romans who are based south, they're based at Lincoln. They decide to come north and to sort out that problem, and this is where they built their base. So Ninth Legion come here, but then a little bit of time after, I mean, it's quite a bit of time actually, you know, crumbs, I can't remember specifically, but it's at least 100 years. 100 years later, they are called up supposedly to Scotland to deal with some troubles up there, and they were never heard from or seen again.
Right.
So there's been films and stories and all sorts written about them, and for years and years and years, people have wondered what happened to them. But recently, there's been some archaeological digs done in the Netherlands, and there's been references to the Ninth Legion. Oh. So they actually think they found them.
Right.
So all the films and all the books that have been written have all been proved wrong. It's like the perfect storm, Kay.
Oh, don't start me about that film.
Kay doesn't like film. I remember the first time we watched that film. You watched it and you went, so I've just sat here and watched all that, and they're all dead.
Plus, they all died, so how do they even know that's what happened?
I know.
So
the book is actually very good. Enough talk. I have more circumnavigating to do. We need to give it a score for Knitability. I'm thinking 8.
Pretty good. I'd go at 8. Yeah.
Yes. You know,
you could happily sit here for an hour knitting.
You absolutely could. And I think that we also, you know, we need to score it as we see it, and we need to also score it as we feel it. And we would always be happier sat in Olden Castle. You know, quiet, secluded, not so many people around. But
this is okay.
This is really, really good. So if you come to York, and in fact, if you go anywhere, just branch off a little bit.
Yeah, definitely, because it's heaving in town today.
Horrendous.
Awfully busy, and I just can't bear it.
No.
But it's lovely in here. And look, there's like a bug or something went right in front of the lens.
He's filming.
That'll be fun to see. Oh, he's right in front of the lens.
Great.
That's going to be, look, you're going to get a close-up.
Go away, Fly.
Close-up of a little bug.
Look, enough knitting.
Yes.
Let's get back on our adventure.
Because we need to find out, who does this gravestone belong to, and why was he so important to the story of York?
And who built this huge multangular tower? We'll find out all that and so much more when we see you later in the show for part 2.
Literally, it doesn't get better for me than that. You know, I think through the history of our favourite places to knit and new adventures, I can't get to Egypt, that's the problem.
No.
I can't get to Egypt and do some on... I'd love to. We'd love to do that because we both love Egypt.
Yeah.
But, you know, the closest thing I can get to that, and I will always love the Romans, and perhaps we're getting to the bottom of the reason why I love the Romans, because, you know, I grew up surrounded by them. If you enjoy this, if you've enjoyed, you know, what you've seen so far and you're enjoying hearing a little bit about Roman Britain, there's loads of additional reading you can do. Rosemary Sutcliffe wrote The Eagle of the Ninth, which is, it's like a children's book, but it's like a Harry Potter children's book. And they made a film of it, which I'm actually going to reference later.
Very good, the film.
Starring Channing Tatum, called The Eagle. Channing Tatum and Jamie Bell. But also Simon Scarrow with his series, his Roman series. He's only written one Roman series. He writes an awful lot about Roman Britain, and they're really good books. More specifically, though, if you're really interested in Roman Britain, Guy de la Baudoyer.
Oh, we never know how to say his name.
It's the hardest surname ever. Roman Britain, the book is called, and I use that a lot for a lot of the research for what you've seen in part one, what you see in part two.
If you've watched Time Team, he was on Time Team a lot.
It's a brilliant book. It's a brilliant book, and I've actually got another book of his which came out for Christmas, all about the Praetorian Guard, which I'm really looking forward to reading. Yeah. So yeah, it'd be just superb. But part two is coming later, because now it's time for us to find out, Kay Jones, what's off your needles?
Did you say you had one thing off your needle?
Yes.
Do you?
Haha. Yeah, and I'm not cheating either.
It's not in the... Who cheats?
I do.
Oh, right. I'm going to say, I never cheat.
I cheat. I show you one finished sock and claim that as a what's off my needle. It's not that. But what have you got?
I finished my Stash Buster
Woohoo!
shawl. Yeah, I'd almost finished it last time, if you remember, but it's all finished now and blocked. Oh, it's lovely. I love how it turned out. It blocked lovely. This yarn's gorgeous. It's the fondant fibre. It's a cashmere sock base, and the colourway was newt. And it's just this lovely neutral. And the way that I wear this Stash Buster shawl, which it's Heather Haynes, the pattern, and she's actually just brought out a DK version of this, which has got some lace in it as well, which looks super lovely. So if you've got some DK that you want to sort of whip out a project with quickly, then that would be a super project. But what I do is I sort of fold it in half like this, and then I just throw it around my neck, and then I put the short end through the big end, if you like. Oh, my hair's got in the way. And then just pull it into this, and it just produces this gorgeous little, you know, neck warmer that it stays put, doesn't move, you don't have to fuss with it. It's lovely and warm around your neck. And, you know, especially when you've got a coat on, all you will see is, you know, this bit, and you can pop the little tail bits outside if you want to. But it's just the perfect little project. I absolutely love the finished item of this. And actually, as I said on the last podcast, I did really enjoy knitting it once I kind of got past that point where I was thinking it was never going to end, which was ridiculous, you know, once I really worked it out that actually I didn't have that much left to go. It was fantastic, and I had about 2 or 3 grams of yarn left. I deliberately wanted just a little bit left so that I could put a square into Goffy's mini blanket, you know, the Christmas one, which I've done. So there we go, that's one finished item, and I can't wait for it to be cool enough for me to wear it.
Yeah, I know. I can't wait for it to be cool enough to wear my tank top.
I know, it feels really muggy today, you know, it's quite warm. It seemed a bit cooler yesterday, but it does feel quite warm today.
I just want to be cool. I like being cold. I just can't get cold.
It's just been so warm for so long, hasn't it? That
it's the humidity that's what messes me up.
It's just exhausting, isn't it? It's just, oh my goodness, what is going on with this weather? So
we don't live in a place which is conducive or used to warm weather.
No, and I'm not.
And there's a reason for that.
I'm not getting any more used to it. You know, I'm not acclimatising at all to it.
I think we should.
Whether you have to live somewhere for years.
Let's go somewhere cooler.
I know. Let's move.
We shall emigrate to a fridge. That would suit me. I know. I could just sit around in my knitted garments all day.
What's off your needles?
Look.
Then? Whoa!
Oh, no.
Wow.
Go, Dan Jones. What's off your needles?
Dan Jones. What's off your needles?
It's another Mon Ami Hat.
Yay!
Oh yes, and I don't know what to do next now. I don't know whether to knit another one of these or
Why
not.
haven't we blocked that? Did you just shove it in your bag and not give it to me to block? Clearly that's what's occurred.
Clearly. So it's another Mon Ami Hat. Really enjoyed knitting this again. It's a great knit. It's the 4th of Kay's platinum patterns, which will be coming out.
In September.
Exciting.
I don't know exactly when.
So gold and platinum podcast patrons.
Yeah, first week probably in September.
So this is the amazing 4th platinum collection pattern, and as Kay says, it's coming out in September, and I'm deciding now whether I should knit another one before September, because
I've got the yarn. I need to knit another one actually, and I've got the yarn to knit another one.
the reason why I'm
look,
considering whether I should knit another one.
Yeah.
In fact, I think I should is, look, lovely, lovely,
Yeah.
lovely, awful.
But that just shows how you improved. It was way too loose, obviously, here, but then up here, it's pretty good.
So I think I should do another one, maybe, because I worry that if I have to think about, I'm worried what's going to happen is if I go ahead and do another pattern, it's going to start and it's going to be like this,
Right.
because I'm going to be thinking about getting the pattern right.
You don't think you will have learned. You see, this bit here is a bit too tight. Can you see how
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
it's doing that?
Yeah.
It's such a tricky thing to get right. Maybe, I mean, I need to knit another one. So, I mean, would it be useful if we were to sit and sort of start it together and look how I did the colour work, and then, I don't know, I mean, I'm only trying to help.
I think it's repetition because, you know, if you look, as we said, if you look in the middle, it's pretty good. And obviously, you're right in the zone then, aren't you? Because you've got going and you knit it and everything's great. So I don't know if it's repetition. I really don't know. It just...
We'll see what it's like when, I mean, I'll block it, I'll wash it this afternoon and just...
Well, yeah, it'll be fine. It looks fine. I mean, look at it. Look at it.
It's lovely.
It's fine. So, you know, I'll have a think and decide, and I shall unveil what I'm going to knit next
I'll have that to wash it.
on the next return to the centre of the yoke, which is out at the end of this month. What else is off your needles?
Well, this is very exciting. I've got a new design, and I've kept this one completely, I say completely under wraps. Our patrons have seen this, and it's been test knit by some of our lovely patrons. But apart from that, I've kept it secret, and the main reason for that is because I want to put it out on a specific date, and there's a reason that it's coming out on that specific date. So I just wanted to keep it kind of secret. So I'm going to show you now though what it is, and I will tell you about the date and the relevance of it. So it's a cowl. The pattern will be coming out on the 1st of September, so just a couple of weeks. The reason it's coming out on the 1st of September is that's the new start of the Hogwarts school year. So that probably gives you a hint as to the theme of the cowl. The cowl is called the Philosopher's Cowl. So you all now know it's Harry Potter themed. So I will show you the cowl.
What's going on with that ribbing?
The ribbing?
Yeah.
Well, I've done a kind of modified 2x2 rib on the cowl, top and bottom.
That looks cool.
Yeah, and I've called it a crenellated rib because it kind of reminds me of the crenellations on the castle. Crenellations, if you don't know what they are, it's the bits that do this on the castle.
This is the perfect time for you to talk about it because we've been talking about crenellations in the new adventure.
Oh, right.
Yes.
Well, there you go.
Would you believe it?
So here is the cowl. It's long. It goes, there you go, there's the bottom with the dark colour, and then it goes all the way up to the palest colour here. So we've got this crenellated rib. I will scoot that up so that I can show you. So it's like a modified 2x2 rib, top and bottom, and then it's just lovely, soothing stocking stitch. But what I've done, it uses, first of all, I'll tell you, it uses 10 20-gram mini skeins. I used all Harry Potter colourways that I've dyed. Obviously, you can use whatever you want to use, and this is where really you can just let your imagination sort of run riot. You can choose to do a light to dark sequence, like I did. You could do a rainbow sequence, you could do a gradient of one colour, you could do all pastel colours, You could do all brights. It's entirely up to you. And I know a lot of you have probably got quite a lot of my minis, Harry Potter minis, so it could be that you've got enough in stash already to use those if you wanted to. You could use other people's, you know, Harry Potter dyed themed yarns. You could use leftovers.
It's only the second time I've seen this, and the way that this graduates from one colour to another, this looks different to anything I've seen before.
Yeah, you will see that it's gradiated in, it's blended, melded as I've called it, because I thought that was kind of a sorcery type word. So there's colour melds from one to the next to the next. And I didn't want to just stripe these changes. I've seen that quite a lot on designs where you've got colour blends from one to another, and you basically just do some 2-row stripes, I think, to go from one to the other. I wanted to achieve something that looks much more blended. The image I had in my mind was, do you know, if you've got like a cauldron of spells going on and the steam that's rising and all those different colours, that was kind of what was in my brain, and I really wanted the colours to merge really nicely from one to the other, and I'm hoping I've achieved that.
Yeah. Well, I've not seen anything like that before.
Yeah, and I wanted to just keep it stocking stitch, largely stocking stitch, because, you know, I wanted this to be just a lovely, soothing project, and just enabling you to enjoy all the colour changes and watching them merge from one to the other. And then you've got the lovely interest of the rib top and bottom. And choosing the colours was really fun, and within the pattern I've put in like a sheet at the back, and it allows you to plan your colours out. One of the testers that test knit for me suggested that I do this, and I thought it was a brilliant idea, where you can actually plan your colour sequence. So you can write in each of your colour choices. You could colour that section in, you know, with pencils or whatever in that colour if you wanted to. And then you can also just, you know, like sellotape in a little sample of the yarn by the side of it. So that will help you plan out the sequence, and then it will also help you when you're knitting through them, because if you wind all your minis up and put them all in your bag, it might be difficult then to remember which one comes next. So if you tape in a little bit of each yarn, then it's really easy for you to see which colour comes next. So that'll be like an additional sheet at the back of the pattern that you can print or not if you want to, just to help you plan the colours out. I mean, I started all of the colours. I don't know if there's any new ones. I think there might be 1 or 2 new ones, but I have listed all of the colours that I used in the pattern as well. So if you wanted to go through your stash and see if you had any of the colours, then I've listed all of the colours I used. As you can see, it just sort of blends really nicely. This one at the top here is a Hedwig colourway. It's a Wizard's Best Friend. And then it runs all the way down to After All This Time is the very dark colour at the bottom, which is lovely Snape inspired. And I absolutely love it. I'll put it on for you. It's long. It's about 25 inches, I think, is what I measured it to. And you knit it, I knit mine on just a 16-inch sock circular needle, because I just find that really pleasant and really soothing to knit cowls on that size of a needle. But if you wanted to use magic loop, you could, or DPNs, you know, it's entirely up to you. Oh, that's probably wiped off all my lipstick, but never mind. So let me just arrange it. I wanted the length of it because I wanted it to be able to really scooch up like this around your neck. You know, it looks really long when you hold it out, but actually when you put it on around your neck, because it's fingering weight, it really scooches down, and you can pull it up so it's right up the back of your neck and it covers everything. And I think it's just lovely. And you can wear it so that you've got the pale colour at the top, or you can switch it round and have the dark colour near your face. You know, whichever colour suits you the best, you can have nearer to your face as well. So
you could probably pull that over your head and use it.
Well, you could. Oh, your mum would love this. She loves a snood.
She's obsessed with them.
So you can actually pull it over you. Oh, look, how cute. Do I look cute, or does it look ridiculous?
Now you need to sing Matchmaker.
I know, I do. But, you know, you can do that. If it's a really cold day and you've forgotten your hat, you can pull it over your head. Brilliant.
Gentle.
Yeah. So that's the Philosopher's Cowl. And it will be, like I said, it will be coming out on Ravelry on the 1st of September, so that, you know, if you wanted to have a bit of fun casting on for the new Hogwarts school year, I just thought that would really...
Can we have a knit along?
A fun thing to do. We will have a knit along.
And can one of the prizes please be one of the Lego Harry Potter figure bags?
Oh, that's a brilliant idea. We will do that. Because they've just come out with all the new ranges, haven't they, Lego, of Harry Potter, and they've done the little minifigure bags. So we will get one or two of those, yeah. And
maybe you'll win Dobby.
Put that in with the prize.
Who knows?
So, yeah, we're going to have a knit along. I'll tell you about that in a second. But the prize I'm going to use for this knit along actually is I've stolen it from the Summer of Sorcery prizes, and it's going to be the skein of Piggy Yarns. I just thought this was such a special skein, and it's so beautiful, and it fits the theme obviously perfectly. It just seemed right to use this as the prize for the knit along. So it will start on the 1st of September, and I thought it would be fun to run it until Halloween, because again, very Harry Potter, isn't it?
Yeah.
So 1st of September until Halloween. So I'll open a thread on Ravelry, a chatter thread with all the details, and then obviously an FO thread as well. You don't have to finish the cowl. Wherever possible now with our knit-alongs, we're going to put in a rule where you don't actually have to finish the item, because we want this to be fun, and we don't want it to be a high-pressure thing, you know, and you never know what's going to happen in your life. You might just have a busy period and not have time to finish it, but you've still been working on it and you would still want to enter. So you don't have to finish it. You can just pop in a photo of your progress towards the end of the knit along if you know you don't think you're going to finish. So you can get choosing your minis, 10-20 gram minis is what you need, and I think it'll be super fun.
Cool.
I'm really excited.
Me too. I mean, it's great. Look, we need to get back to York. We need to finish off our 3-episode arc with, well, I won't tell you what's going to happen, but just pay attention to the very end of what happens at the end of this part 2, because we finish where we started. Oh yes. And I think it's sort of unbelievable that so much happened in that spot, because if you remember when we were looking at the Vikings, that's where the Vikings landed. Right. You know, where our journey finishes today, it's where the Vikings landed. So really, our episode 1 of this season of New Adventures is where our episode 6 is going to finish. Just keep your eyes open. You'll see what I mean when we get there. Let's go back to York.
To Eboracum and our circumnavigation of the Roman remains of the city. Now we're continuing our journey along these amazing walls, but just up ahead we're coming to a rather important location.
1,000 years after the Romans left York, the only way you could get in and out of the city was through one of these. This is Bootham. It was, and still is, one of the city's 4 main entrances and exits. In times of danger, these could be shut, in effect creating a huge castle.
And why is this particular bar so important to us, this gatehouse? Well, it's because it's the only one that stands on an original Roman entrance.
This is what it would have looked like. Very similar to its medieval replacement, isn't it? This gatehouse was called the Porta Principalis Dextra, and it was the northwestern gate straight out of the Roman city of Eboracum. If you believe some historians, it was under this gate that the 9th Legion, who had of course founded the city, marched north to Scotland in 108 AD. They had been based in York for 39 years, so most of the soldiers who had arrived in 71 AD would have died or been retired off into the local communities. We know that because of this. It's the gravestone of the 9th Legion's standard bearer. It was found in a graveyard within the city walls in 1688. But what was the fate of the standard bearers Legion, the men who had built York?
After years of easy living in the city of Eboracum, it was time for the 9th Legion to see some action. They marched straight out of that gate behind me and off to Scotland, and they were never heard from again. You can read all about it in the book The Eagle of the 9th, and also a film from 2011 called The Eagle. But just up here, in a car park, which I used to use when I used to work in the theatre opposite, is some more Roman remains for us to see. Let's go take a look.
In 1838, York City Council built this road, and whilst excavating for it, they found this. It's the front wall of the fortress we've just walked around. This would have stood as high and proud as what we've already seen and walked along. And once again, these are the stones laid by the 9th Legion. No one has taken care of them and upkept them. This is another tangible connection to the men who founded this wonderful city. And in a car park, I must have used 1,000 times. I probably parked where that black van is there, walked round that wall, never gave it a moment's notice, and across into the theatre beyond.
But if you're looking for impressive Roman remains, they don't come much better than this. This is the Multangular Tower, and we know it's Roman because of that red line of bricks there.
We're now at the opposite corner of the original Roman fort to where we started our journey today. And those stones aren't medieval, they're the original Roman. At the end of the wall, we find this outstanding tower. Built under the instruction of Constantine the Great, it would have replaced the original square tower. At its base, we see original Roman brickwork, but as we look upward, we see medieval additions. What's surprising is the Roman tower, the 2,000-year-old bricks, are smaller and neater, similar to how we build today, but the medieval bricks, about 1,000 years old, are much larger and more uneven.
The Romans actually revolutionized building when they invented the mortar that holds this together. It enabled them to build much taller, much stronger, and much more robust defenses. And what's really cool is actually if we're stood here and we're looking diagonally across that way, we'd be looking at the tower where our journey started today.
We're now leaving the military fortress behind us because on the opposite bank of the river, a settlement sprang up. Roman legionaries were well paid, so local entrepreneurs started businesses to service their wealthy visitors. It was right here that the roots of the city we can visit today, the city of York, were formed. Initially, it would have been just a few shops and perhaps a tavern, but as the years progressed and the importance of Eboracum grew, the settlement became a city to rival any in the empire.
And cities needed protection too, so it's right here on the banks of the River Ouse that we pick up the walls again.
Whilst the walls we're walking on are medieval, built about 100 years before Henry VIII's arrival in 1541, they follow the exact course of the Roman settlement walls. We've established these early settlements had a few shops and perhaps a place to get a drink. But as the years progressed, soldiers retired and built houses here within the walls. If we consider Eboracum was built in 71 AD, by the time Constantine arrived 300 years later, this was quite a city. It became so great, it had been declared a colonia. This was a title granted to only a handful of cities outside of Italy itself.
It tells us something about how it must have felt like to live here in York. Romans must have felt at home. And if they felt at home, that normally meant they were attending games. Now, a Colosseum has never been found here at York, but just behind me, something very interesting has.
In 2004, archaeologists digging in the grounds of the Station Hotel, right there in sight of the city walls, found remains dating to the Roman period. Forensic work led to the theory that the remains must have been Roman gladiators. Why? Well, one of the skeletons bore a large carnivore bite mark, probably inflicted by a lion, tiger, or bear. Several more had had their heads cut off, either when they were still alive or shortly after they died. But the experts had no idea where the individuals hailed from. Until now. Using cutting-edge forensic technology, one of the decapitated Romans had an extraordinary story to tell. He was from the Middle East, growing up in the region of modern-day Palestine, Jordan or Syria, before migrating to Britain and meeting his death in the arena at York. It sounds like a story straight out of the movie Gladiator, doesn't it? And I suspect my co-host is off looking for Russell Crowe.
So I think it's time that I went and found somewhere perfect for a little picnic. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a masterstroke. When you go out for a trip, don't go into a restaurant. Don't do it. You've forgotten your picnic. Go into Marks and Spencer's and buy yourself some lunch, because it's cost us a fraction of what it would have cost if we'd gone into a restaurant.
Very true. You've eaten tons.
I've eaten tons. I've eaten the things I like to eat, superfood and fruit and all those lovely things. And not only that, we've got to sat in our perfect, from the knitting
We've got
spot
to
earlier,
sat in.
We've got to sit.
Thank you.
In our lovely knitting spot earlier with our lovely pigeon friends.
Oh, look, he's hopping like a
stone's throw from the headquarters of the Roman fort. Oh,
What's he doing?
I think a pigeon fight is about to break
no,
out.
I think it's courtship or something.
There is pigeon courtship going on in front of us.
I've never seen a pigeon do that.
Dinner and a show.
He like went down on his front and went and like tipped his tail up.
But it's a serious point, I think this is, because, you know, if, for example, you had a big family and, you know, it's challenging going into a restaurant and paying restaurant prices. Or, you know, forget that.
Or you might not want to make a picnic as well, because it's a bit of a bind, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think, you know, putting together a picnic first thing in the morning, it's like, oh my goodness. And carrying it around with you everywhere.
All I had to do was carry with me the picnic blanket, and we're done. And honestly, I'm not joking, that's the best food I've had in a long time.
It's lovely, and I know that Marks and Spencer's is only in this country.
But just find somewhere, you know, that sells
there'll be
nice
equivalents,
food. And, you know, forget about going in those restaurants. When it's a nice day, like it is here today, you know, get out on your picnic blanket and away you go. Picnicability score.
Well, it's been great. It's been much better than a lot of
We've got a score
a lot
10.
of places. Yeah, I'd say it's 10.
We've got a score
It's
at
been
10
lovely.
because, you know, there's loads of restaurants if you wanted to go in a restaurant, but we chose not to. Marks and Spencer's.
I'm so glad we didn't, because
So am I.
They're all packed.
They're all packed.
They're all really
And how much
busy.
less have we paid?
A lot less,
Yeah.
and it's been much more pleasant, and we've enjoyed it more, and we've got to eat food that we would want to eat rather than...
I would have ordered nothing different. You know, well, I wouldn't have been able to have ordered what I've had.
No, you had some sushi, and you had a superfood salad thing, and some fresh pineapple.
Yeah, and a samosa, a vegetable samosa.
You had loads, and I treated myself and had a prawn sandwich from Marks and Spencer's. So.
Interestability, York walls.
Yeah, I mean, it's great.
I mean, Roman history.
Yeah.
Walking down the avenue, you know, the first thing we did today on the shoot, and, you know, you saw those wonderful views of the Minster, where, of course, you know, the Roman importance is there because the foundations is where all the pillars and all the leftovers are from the basilica. You know, walking down, seeing that view without any... Whenever we've come to York over the last few years, a bit like Chatsworth, there's always been some sort of coverage of the Minster.
Yes, that's true.
It really is perfection. So, you know, what's your thoughts for interestability score?
I'd probably go 8, maybe.
Would you?
Yeah. What were you thinking?
Well, tell me why you're scoring it down the 2.
Just because we've been to places that I've thought were more interesting, I suppose.
Well, okay then. Well, I think that's a fair comment. I would have probably gone 9, but, you know, Kay's made a fair point. She's been to places which she's found slightly more interesting.
I'd be happy to go 9 if you want to go 9.
No, let's go 8, because a lot of my fascination with York and a lot of my fascination with the Roman stuff is my experiences when I was young. So, you know, a lot of it might be, you know, childhood enjoyment, and definitely all the things though that we've looked at today shaped me and made me the history lover that I am. Definitely. And you know, I find it can't be coincidental that I spent every school day of my time at the Minster School just over the way walking past a statue of Constantine, and now I love the Romans.
Yeah.
The thing is, though, I never realised that was Constantine. I never even realised he was a Roman.
Right.
Why didn't my history teacher bring us out and go, look?
Because it won't have been on the curriculum, will it? Well, I would imagine that's the reason why.
We have a school.
A school.
We have 10 for Pigability, we've got 8 for Interestability and 8 for Knitability.
Wow.
So that's a grand score of 26. It's not the top, but it's near the top. It's done exceptionally well.
Very
and I
good.
think that's about right for a school.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, I think it's time that we find out how this story finishes. Hopefully, with me successfully completing my circumnavigation of York. We're continuing our way around the walls. We're following the path of the walls that once stood around the town that grew up outside the Roman fort of Eboracum.
As the years progressed, Roman power across their vast empire began to wane. There was lots of reasons for this, but the main one was that they had just grown too big. The empire needed too much money to run it, and when the cash dried up, orders stopped being sent out to the legionaries. For the Roman way of life to continue, they had to retract from the farthest reaches of the empire.
It's really interesting to talk about the last legion to be stationed here, and their departure actually really was what signalled the end of Roman York of Eboracum. It was the 6th legion, and it was 409 AD, and they were called away, just like any army division could be, even today. They were called away to another country. I think they actually went off to France. And how strange it must have been leaving here, because this was their home. They'd been born here, they'd been recruited into the army here, but they would die somewhere else.
With no soldiers to support their shops, the city quickly became deserted. Citizens dispersed to self-sufficient farms and estates in the country. But what of Eboracum? Well, there's no doubt that for a period of time that it was deserted.
The city, whose walls we have now successfully circumnavigated, enters a period of history called Sub-Roman. But let's just take a moment to really soak up what we've just achieved. We've just stepped off the walls, and we have followed in the footsteps of Roman York and Eboracum. We've traced the outline of the Roman fort, and we've traced the outline of the colonia of the old town of York. Amazing.
But in 409 AD, after hundreds of years of expansion, emperors, wealth and success, suddenly the great city was gone.
Except it wasn't, because Eboracum was just taking a little break.
Before its transformation into the stunning city of York.
But that's a whole other story. We'll see you next time for more new adventures.
Did you enjoy it?
I did.
Oh, I think it was super fun.
Oh my goodness, the best picnic ever. Just
Oh, yeah. I'm telling you, if you go to York, don't bother with anything else. Just go to Marks and Spencer's and get yourself some, sushi and salads
and the perfect spot.
Lovely.
Perfect spot is the gardens behind the Minster.
Definitely, yeah.
So just head to the Minster, can't miss it, you can see it wherever you are in York, head to the Minster, just walk around the back, lovely gardens, walk straight in.
Yeah.
You will find a patch of grass.
Yeah.
It was just perfect.
Because it was a madly busy day in York.
Yeah.
And it wasn't that busy
It's
in
a
there.
bit of a hidden spot.
Yeah, I think so.
Some people know it's there, but you know the main sort of tourist throng don't know it's there.
Yeah.
And literally, you know, within 5 minutes, you're there from Marks and Spencer's.
Yeah.
Took no time at all.
Yeah.
So go there. It's great. Gold edition, which is only like a minute or two longer. It's live now for gold and platinum patrons, but in there as well, in addition to what you've just seen, is, as I said before, it's all our research notes, and also there's some quite extended outtakes, because we had some fun with a fly
Oh, gosh.
and a wasp.
Kept landing on the camera lens, right on the camera lens.
Well, people, there was no way of
Can
me
you
actually.
see it when you- yeah.
There was just no way of me getting it completely out. So you know, you will have seen a little bit of that. but
Wildlife.
that fly was there quite a bit. It's time for us to talk about some Endy Bits.
Endy Bits.
Oh yes, Neil. Climb Every Mountain
Climb Every Mountain.
is still ongoing. So
Yeah.
please, anyone come and join in the walk or the run, and patrons, keep posting your finished objects in the thread. The Summer of Sorcery.
Summer of Sorcery, Cal, is kind of coming to an end. We've just got a couple of weeks left. It finishes at the end of August. So what I actually did today was I took all of the prizes that have been kindly donated and I've made them up into bundles of prizes. So we've actually got, let me just check my notes, there is 5 bundles of prizes, plus then 2 extra patterns that I had. So in each bundle, there is some kind of bag or pouch, there's some yarn, there might be some stitch markers, and there'll be a pattern of some kind. So I've got them all bundled up, so when we draw, I don't know if it'll finish before the end of the next podcast, I'm not sure, but they're all ready to show you when, you know, we announce the prize winners.
There's a lot of prizes.
There's a lot of prizes, and that's why I thought for this one it makes sense to make up these little bundles.
That's fun.
And that would be such a nice thing, you know, to receive as a prize a lovely bag, a skein of yarn, some stitch markers, a pattern, you know, so I think that's really nice. So we've got 5 main sort of bundles of prizes, plus then 2 extra patterns, that because I had a lot more patterns donated. So I thought, right, we'll just add those as 2 extra prizes.
Cool.
So get finishing your Summer of Sorcery projects, pop them into the FO thread, and you could win one of those lovely prize bundles.
You got some yarn too, didn't you?
I bought a little bit of yarn. Yeah, I was enabled by the lovely Sarah Hepworth, because aren't we always enabled by lovely Sarah? And she's actually enabled me for some other yarn, to purchase some other yarn, which I placed an order yesterday. It's a new Opal range that Sarah's already been knitting with, because I think she got it from Germany, which comes out earlier in Germany. And it's Symphony de Traum, I'm saying that wrong. I think it means Symphony of Dreams. And the striping sequence looks kind of different to other opals I've seen before. So I've got some of that on the way. But Sarah the other day was knitting with this yarn. And she posted a picture and I'm like, oh, I've got to get some of that. So I ordered some. She was knitting with King Cole Zigzag. And this yarn's been revamped fairly recently. It used to be a 50-50 wool acrylic. And it's now a 75-25 wool nylon. So the more kind of standard sock base. And the one that Sarah was knitting with is this colour, which is pinks. So I got that one. But then I also got purples, because I thought that was lovely. And then I also had to get corals, because I thought that was really nice as well. And I got this from Wool Warehouse in the UK, who are a brilliant online shop. Their service is always fantastic, very quick, and, you know, very efficient. And this yarn, I think, is about £5 a ball, which is brilliant, isn't it? And it looks great. Nice. I'm going to be casting one of these on as another one of my kind of opal substitute yarns to give it a go.
So we can stick that in the review series.
Yeah, because I deliberately haven't cast it on yet, because I thought, oh, I'll use one of those for that purpose. And I can't decide which colour to use. The pink one was lovely that Sarah was knitting with, but look at the purple. I'm kind of drawn to the purple.
I think I'd go purple.
Yeah. But then I thought, well, I'd maybe want to knit Shorty socks for you again, and I'm thinking he's not going to want any of these colours as Shorty socks.
Probably not. They're all a bit ladylike.
Maybe I'll knit some shorty socks for me.
Oh, Bryony.
Or Bryony.
Yes.
Yeah, that seems a good idea.
Do that.
Doesn't it?
She'll love them.
Yeah, so there we go.
Anything else from you?
No.
Wonderful. Knitability is out next Friday. It's a week later than originally scheduled. We've got a wonderful interview with Melanie Berg and all sorts of other just really cool things. And a great article from Kay, which she hasn't written yet.
Oh, yeah.
But we're feeling very inspired, actually, after our trips and mountain climbing and all sorts.
Yeah.
And we'll be back in 2 weeks with another pudding club. Very exciting. I can't wait. Do you know what? I've come to rely on Pudding Club. Yes, because it provides me monthly with a lovely surprise for my sweet tooth.
It will be a surprise because I don't know what I'm doing yet.
She hasn't decided yet.
Not decided yet.
It will be something lovely there. I think it should be something that helps us because, you know, we're getting closer now, aren't we? I can feel it. Do you know, I want to start a countdown board to autumn. What day does autumn begin? Do you know?
Well, the autumn equinox is something like the 21st of September, I think.
I seriously think there's somewhere we need to count this down because I am desperate for autumn. The day that I can put on my tank top. And speaking of tank tops...
Well, there's no guarantee that you'll be able to do that on the day because September's usually quite mild, isn't it?
I realise that. When are you casting me on my new tank top?
I found a pattern, I showed it to our patrons on the last pop on Sunday. I just bought the Knitter magazine and it had like a cricket tank top. You know that sort of very British style tank top that cricketers wear that's white with like a band of sort of colour around here with cables. And I just thought, oh, Dan, I'd love that.
I would love that.
And I nearly didn't show him because I thought he's going to say he wants it.
And she did.
Yeah.
And I do want it.
Yeah.
But you know what I will repay you with as a special treat?
What?
I'm going to knit. It maybe will only be one block and it will happen in September, but I'm going to knit and we will run a tutorial series around a mitre square block.
Square, you mean? A mitre square?
Yes.
Just a mitre square?
No, I'll knit however many and then put them all together and I'll pick out the colours and, you know, like you do.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah. You've been going on about me doing that since... Yeah.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah. So,
and you've always said that looks boring, I'm not doing that.
So I'm going to give it a try. It will probably only be one block of how many...
Right.
Have you got any blankets on the go?
I have got a blanket on the go that's just 4 mitred squares and then it's bordered.
Oh, genius. I'll do that. Yeah. I'll do that.
All right.
And then you can add it to your blanket.
Okay.
So you can pick the colours.
Right.
Because I'll just make a big zero there.
Okay.
And that will be a tutorial series coming out for all of your lovely patrons in September/October, most probably. Thank you so much for watching. So much to look forward to. And we'll see you in 2 weeks for more.
Bye, everybody.
Sitting and knitting, it's Dan and Kay, the bakery bears. Enthusiasm's not quitting for Dan and Kay, the bakery bears. They'll take you to fabulous places of which their favorites they'll share. You better buy a pattern, get yourself a bakery bear. Find yourself in a castle watching the bakery bears. It never feels like a hassle to sit and watch the bakery bears. What's on your shelf?